let's kick things off with a scenario that is, well, it's huge, a real mind bender. What if the one thing that truly defines our little blue marble, our vast, deep oceans, just vanished? That really sets the scene, doesn't it? A world we would barely recognize. But in this scenario, where would all of that water have gone? And here's the first big twist. The water isn't actually gone. It hasn't disappeared into space or anything like that. No, it's just moved. It's risen up, forming this thick, permanent, global ocean right in our sky. Okay, that immediately begs a massive question, right? What kind of force, what kind of event could possibly be powerful enough to boil away all of our planet's oceans? Well, the answer lies in this really terrifying planetary process. It's called the runaway greenhouse effect. And yeah, it's the science that explains how you can literally boil an entire planet dry. So what is it exactly? A runaway greenhouse effect is basically a devastating positive feedback loop. It's a planetary fever that just keeps getting worse. The planet heats up, which makes the oceans evaporate. All that new water vapor in the atmosphere traps even more heat, which, you guessed it, makes the planet hotter still. It is a one-way street with no off-ramps. And this cycle is so incredibly dangerous because it just feeds on itself. Every single step just accelerates the next one. You get more heat, that means more vapor means more trapped heat. And the whole thing just spirals completely out of control until there are no oceans left. And if you think this sounds like something out of a wild science fiction movie, well, it's not. We've got a real-world example right next door. Scientists are pretty sure that Venus once had oceans, but it lost them to a runaway greenhouse effect billions of years ago. That's a pretty chilling thought. So now that we know how it could happen, let's get into the consequences. And first up, the big one. The climate just completely collapses. This is what happens when the planet's great air conditioner, its great heat regulator, is gone. You know, with our oceans, we have this world where heat gets spread around pretty evenly. We have predictable weather, seasons. Without them, it becomes a planet of just brutal extremes. Forget stable seasons. We're talking about a world of perpetual, crushing humidity and unimaginably violent hyperstorms. And any rain that does fall, it would instantly flash back into steam the moment it hit the superheated ground. And the devastation on land would be, well, absolute. All the rivers and lakes dry up, the groundwater aquifers totally empty. The soil would turn into this hard, salt-crusted clay. Eventually, all of the world's deserts would just merge together to form one massive, barren wasteland covering the continents. So the climate is destroyed. From there, we have to turn to the living things on the planet. This is life without water, what you could only call the great biological apocalypse. Now, here's a fact that is absolutely crucial, but one we almost never think about. 50%. That is the staggering share of Earth's oxygen that comes from tiny little phytoplankton in the ocean. They're basically microscopic plants. With the oceans gone, that vital source of the air we breathe is gone too. The planet itself would just slowly begin to suffocate. And the extinction would just cascade. It would happen in waves. Immediately, all marine life dies. Everything from the great whales to the coral reefs, gone. Then, within months, the world's forests and grasslands die off from the lack of water. And over the centuries that follow, those oxygen levels in the atmosphere would begin a steady, irreversible fall. So, where does that leave us? What about humanity? Let's take a look at humanity's last stand. I mean, how could we possibly survive in a world that is so fundamentally hostile to us? The new reality for human beings would be pretty grim. Agriculture would fail everywhere, all at once. Our massive coastal cities would become these silent, skeletal ruins. Our very survival would depend on building completely sealed habitats, maybe underground or in massive domes called arcologies. And our only source of water would be harvesting it from that thick, humid atmosphere. We'd become a species living in isolated, artificial bubbles. And just think about the incredible cultural loss. The sound of waves. Imagine that becoming as distant and ancient a concept to future humans as the age of dinosaurs is to us today. An entire fundamental part of the human experience just erased. And now let's look at the endgame, the final chapter. This is where Earth literally becomes Venus, entering its final irreversible state. See, that water vapor up in the sky isn't actually safe. It's being actively destroyed. Way up in the upper atmosphere, powerful UV radiation from the sun acts like a pair of tiny scissors, just splitting the H2O molecules apart. The lighter hydrogen atoms then escape into space, and the oxygen gets locked away. Over millions of years, the planet's water is lost forever. The comparison is just stark. Our future Earth becomes a twin of Venus as we see it today. It's covered in thick clouds, it has a scorched, barren surface, and any life is probably reduced to, at best, a few hardy microbes hiding somewhere deep underground. So after all that, what's the ultimate takeaway from this whole thought experiment? I think it comes down to this really powerful idea. The oceans don't just shape the Earth. In a very real sense, the oceans are the Earth. Losing them wouldn't just be a change for our planet. It would be the end of our world as we know it, a really stark reminder of the fragile, precious balance that makes our blue planet possible in the first place.